Another ominous.
This is Liberation Day plus 13. 2 weeks ago today, the civilian internees of Los Banos prison, 21 miles south of Manila, were liberated under the most dramatic circumstances in the history of this war. After 3 years of undescribable hardship, these people are free again, allowed to do and say what they please, and full of hopes and plans for the future. Only now they're coming out of a daze. They're awaking slowly to the fact that this miraculous rescue is not a dream. I have no words to describe to you what actually happened. Let us hear from the people themselves.
Formerly General Manager of the Trans-Pacific. Mr. Stanley Kingsbury, formerly General Manager of the Trans-Pacific Trading Company, 527 Fifth Avenue, New York, and ex-Chief of Police and Fire Departments of Los Banos Internment Camp. Mr. Kingsbury, would you describe in your own words your reaction to your liberation on February the 23rd?
I'd be very pleased to. I'll go in advance just a few hours. Every evening and every morning we had the physical roll call. That is, all the internees were taken out on the road for roll call, 6 to 6:30 in the evening, 7 to 7:30 in the morning. The night before, everyone was ready for the roll call. As a matter of fact, in the roads, when word came from the Japanese officer of the day that there'd be no roll call, that sounded rather ominous to us because we knew, according to Japanese custom, that no official executions could take place after 6 o'clock at night. In the morning time, we put the regular roll call signal in. Everybody was getting ready for roll call. About an hour and a half prior to that, we'd heard the drone. First we thought they were a drone. About an hour and a half prior to that, we'd heard the drone, which we first thought were planes in the air. Afterwards, we decided that they weren't planes. It sounded like tank motors. And then finally decided that probably was the Japanese army retreating toward us. It looked like a bad day. Only another day of the 1,144 days which I had been in camp. I went about my business, dressed, doing the regular duties in the room, when all of a sudden I heard the sound of planes very near, looked out of my cubicle, and found first 3 planes came over one of the lower barracks. So low, they actually seemed to be touching the roof. Immediately 6 more came over with them. I watched them. I wondered what they were so low for. When they got out about 300 yards from where I was quartered, I noticed a white sheet drop out of one. I'd read a great deal about parachutes. I'd never seen them so near me before. All of a sudden, the 9 planes were letting these parachutes out. It just seems that the air was filled with them. At that time, shooting began. Japanese bullets were flying thick and fast. The only thing we could do was get inside, lay flat on our stomachs in the middle of the barracks on the dirt floor. Things were pretty hot there for about a half, 3/4 of an hour. In the meantime, the boys had come in and told us that we had to evacuate. We only had just a few hours for them to get us out of the camp. Guerrillas were around, the parachutists, the M-tanks had come in. We were told to grab only what we could grab and take under our arm. We got a few things together, left most of the important things behind, and within the question of a few minutes, we were on the M-tracks, where we rolled out of the camp, down to the shores of Laguna de Bay. That's the lake. It was nearby, 2 kilometers away from the camp. And as we were about to enter the lake, of course, we were picked up by a machine gun nest, Japanese machine gun nest. Our 3 guns on the tank let loose. The tank behind us also was under fire. In the meantime, the P-38s were overhead, protecting our exit. And late that afternoon, we arrived after a very, very interesting trip across the lake under escort of the planes in the present place where you're talking to me.
I imagine, Mr. Kingsbury, that you felt as if the entire United States Army was dropping on your head when they started coming.
I certainly did, and I even have to pinch myself now to realize that I am really free and can talk and do as I please.
You can do anything you want to, Mr.
After 1,145 days under the Emperor from Japan, you can't realize how I feel.
No, sir, I can't. Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsbury, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce a very charming young lady, Miss Georgette Kramer. Cut it, Robbie, and flood. Miss Kramer, when did you leave the United States?
Now I was 2 months old.
And you can hardly say that you've ever been there.
No.
I understand, Miss Kramer, that you were wounded by a stray Japanese bullet during the liberation. Would you care to describe that for us?
Well, there really isn't much to say except bullets were flying right and left, and we were so excited we didn't know what to do. So we lied down on the floor and put a mattress across our midriff, and before we knew it, we were hit. The bullet went through Mother's arm and my abdominal wall and into my friend's hand. Then we were rushed to the hospital and then put into a tank.
Were there any other internee casualties?
Yes, one more girl.
Was she seriously wounded?
She was shot through the hip.
I see. Tell me, Miss Kramer, what are your plans for the future?
I really don't know. There's so many things I want to do that I can't make up my mind.
I need something too.
Oh, my little sister.
All right.
I need something too.
My little sister wants to say
Well, what do you want to say? What do you want to do? Hmm?
United States.
United States. You mean you want to go back to the United States?
During the lonely days in Los Banos, people craved entertainment. I'm introducing to you now Bob Jones, a very clever young man, and he's going to tell us what kind of entertainment it was in Los Banos.
Our entertainment at
What entertainment it was in Los Banos.
Well, our entertainment in Los Banos was strictly air sets. We made up everything out of old boxes, Michelin, Sawali, and bamboo. We had to make the best of what we could. And in my case, for instance, why, for lack of a trumpet, I had to imitate one.
I wonder if you could show us a little bit of that.
All right, I'll try imitating Clyde McCoy's Sugar Blues.
Okay, go ahead. Next, I'd like to introduce three charming young ladies, three sisters, who helped making the lonely hours much happier. The Fernandez sisters. It's a very appropriate charity.
There were three little sisters, who lived in Manila by the sea. Till some tiny island farmers with love and heavy farmers came to set the Filipinos free. When the three little sisters were sent o'er the hills and far away to a place called Los Banos, por Dios por cuantos años, but that alas no one could say. But still their young hearts were gay, for they had the word of FDR that help was on the way. So the three little sisters lived happily on rice and mush and mungo beans. Oh yeah, tell it to the soldiers, tell it to the sailors, and tell it to the Marines. Now the three little sisters, their slender forms became more slender still. So with all their girlish ardor, they tried to fill their larder, and everyone worked with a will. Till the three little sisters, the poor little sisters, at last had nothing but camote green. And with empty hearts and tummies, they sat all day like dummies, and lost all faith in the Marines. But then at last came a day when the sky was filled with things and hips could not explain away. Then the three little sisters were happy again and filled with joyous dreams, waiting for the soldiers, waiting for the sailors, and waiting for the hurry.
Thank you, Fernandez, sister.